Angel Reese, really unlikable.
I just hope y'all know the WNBA don't pay my bills at all. I don't even think that pays one of my bills.
She's mimicking, she's mocking.
Caitlin Clark is not my problem.
I don't think they have a white girl problem. I think they have a balance sheet problem.
It's hard for most men to dislike a woman who puts her butt on display everywhere she goes, and she's got a pretty big one and a good one. But she's unlikable.
Just recently, Caitlin Clark, the rising star who's changing the face of women's basketball, just faced a new low. Angel Reese and Aja Wilson, notorious for their unlikable attitudes and constant drama, have launched fresh attacks on Clark.
We got another example, I think, of her on her own podcast complaining about how she can't afford an $8,000 a month rent payment. It's epitome of first world stupidity.
Instead of celebrating her success, these two seem determined to drag her down, with Angel Reese mocking her publicly and Aja Wilson fanning the flames with divisive comments.
She can barely hit layups. She's getting paid $74,000 for the WNBA. She's got, I'm sure, endorsement deals into the 7 figures. So that's why she's laughing about this. And like, she's bragging how much money she makes, and she doesn't need her WNBA salary.
While Clark remains focused on her game, Reese and Wilson are stirring up controversy, exposing their entitlement and bitterness. Let's break down how these two are turning into the biggest villains in women's sports.
Caitlin Clark is not my problem. She's not my enemy. She is. And by the way she's been dressing and showing up. All right, if you need help paying rent, is a Angel Reese OnlyFans coming up next? I mean, it's kind of the next step. Can't pay the bills, gotta pay the rent. Showing a lot of skin. She looks okay for now.
Let's start with Angel Reese, who has been no stranger to stirring up drama, especially when it comes to Caitlin Clark.
I just hope y'all know the WNBA don't pay my bills at all. I don't even think that pays one of my bills.
She's mimicking, she's mocking. Most people don't come out of college and make $74,000 a year.
Average American salary I've read is anywhere between $45,000 to $50,000.
Ever since her college days at LSU, Reese has built a reputation not just for her talent, but for her attitude, often overshadowing her actual performance on the court. Instead of allowing her game to speak for itself, Reese seems more focused on clout chasing.
Those relative season tickets now?
I mean, we might have to.
Those are pretty expensive.
We'll make sure the Fever gets working on that.
Our salaries, it's like our entire salary to get those.
Taking every opportunity to mock and belittle Caitlin Clark. We all remember her infamous gesture during the national championship game, a clear jab at Clark, designed to humiliate rather than compete with dignity.
Angel Reese is undermining the league with her unlikability. The reason why people are jumping on board and everyone's is they finally found a player who's halfway likable in Caitlin Clark and who doesn't rub their wealth, privilege, and entitlement down everyone's throat and force it on like I'm supposed to be special.
But it doesn't stop there. Off the court, Reese has doubled down on her disrespectful behavior, publicly boasting about her wealth, her expensive lifestyle, and endorsement deals. She paints herself as the ultimate success story.
Angel Reese is the one that is going to hurt people's pocketbooks while Caitlin Clark is filling up people's pocketbooks.
However, it's this constant flaunting of money and status that highlights her sense of entitlement and disconnect from reality. While Reese is busy showing off and complaining about how the WNBA doesn't cover her lavish lifestyle, she fails to understand that the league she's part of is struggling to gain an audience.
The WNBA season is not 12 months. In fact, it's not even half a year. The sense of entitlement that somehow that you're underpaid in a league that has never turned a profit and is subsidized by men.
This is where the contrast with Caitlin Clark becomes even more apparent. While Clark stays focused on her craft, Reese seems more interested in playing the role of the villain, basking in the attention that controversy brings. Instead of using her platform to uplift the game, she resorts to pettiness and disrespect, as if trying to distract from the fact that Clark's popularity and likability are rapidly outpacing hers. Angel Reese may have skill, but her attitude makes her one of the most unlikable figures in women's sports today.
I just hope y'all know the WNBA don't pay my bills at all. I don't even think that pays one of my bills. Literally. I'm trying to think of like my rent for where I stay at. I'm gonna do the math real quick.
It might cover that. Yeah, it covers that. It definitely covers that.
What is I don't even know my salary. 74? I don't even know my salary. Does it? Let me see. You don't even... Yo! I'm living beyond my means. It's like... No, my rent is more than that. It's $8,000. I'm living beyond my means. like y'all think.
Now let's shift to Aja Wilson, another player whose animosity towards Caitlin Clark seems to stem from a place of entitlement and frustration.
I want to get to Aja Wilson. My continent is not your name, Aja.
Wilson, who has been positioned as one of the top players in the WNBA, isn't shy about voicing her disdain for Clark. In fact, her comments about white privilege aimed at Clark reveal a deeper issue. Wilson feels threatened by Clark's rising star and popularity, something she clearly doesn't know how to handle.
Aja Wilson telling Kelsey Plum about white privilege and blah, blah, blah. And Aja Wilson's pretty unlikable.
Rather than focusing on elevating her game, Wilson plays the victim card, trying to paint herself as the underdog in a league where she's already one of the biggest names.
Despite all the dressing up, her BFF is some dude that pretends to be a woman named Dolores that harasses people online, and they want to do all this. Well, I face death threats and everybody's out to get me. It turns out it's Aja Wilson's BFF doing a lot of it. We got unlikable.
What makes Wilson's attacks even more telling is her refusal to acknowledge Clark's undeniable talent. Instead of recognizing that Caitlin Clark's success comes from hard work, skill, and dedication, Wilson dismisses it by reducing it to privilege. This not only undermines Clark's achievements, but it also shows how out of touch Wilson is with the current landscape of women's basketball.
Wow, she's unlikable. She's abrasive, she's a race peddler, and she actually hurts the cause as the best player in the league. Huh.
It's no secret that Wilson enjoys playing the race card when it suits her narrative, but the truth is, her frustration goes beyond that. The rise of Caitlin Clark represents a shift in women's basketball, a shift towards players who not only dominate on the court, but who also resonate with fans through their humility and work ethic.
I don't think they have a white girl problem. I think they have a balance sheet problem. And I'm not totally sure that Caitlin Clark would have this level of interest in the whole thing without this hate, without what's going on. I don't know if her story isolated alone.
Wilson, on the other hand, struggles with the idea that someone like Clark could come in and capture the spotlight so effortlessly. This sense of entitlement where Wilson expects recognition without criticism only adds to her growing list of unlikable traits.
People that have been following Caitlin Clark since her days at Iowa, I don't think they necessarily enjoy being painted as racist because they wear a 22 Iowa Hawkeye jersey. They like this one player, which is their right, whether she's white or not.
While Aja Wilson may be a star in her own right, her inability to handle competition from someone like Caitlin Clark shows just how fragile her standing in the league really is.
Caitlin Clark is becoming the best player in the entire WNBA, not because she's white, because she's that good. She's having Larry Bird impact. She's been the driving force of the hottest team in the entire league despite her record turnovers. Why? Because she's that good. She's legit good. She's colorblind good. She's guilt-free good. She's apolitically good.
Finally, let's talk about the stark contrast between Caitlin Clark and these two players, Angel Reese and Aja Wilson. While Reese and Wilson continue to rely on entitlement and divisive narratives to maintain relevance,
she's having impact on her team that nobody else in the league is having on her team. This is a team that went 13-27 last year. And suddenly, the Indiana Fever are the hottest team by far in the league.
Clark is the exact opposite. Her rise to fame is purely driven by her hard work, humility, and relentless dedication to the game. Clark never feels the need to tear others down or play into victimhood to get attention. Instead, she lets her game speak for itself, and fans from all backgrounds respect her for it.
I told myself it's not racist for me to like Caitlin Clark's game and to say so publicly. I've got the fever. I can't help it. I can't stop watching. I can't stop talking about the impact Caitlin Clark is having on game after game after game.
Clark's attitude on and off the court is what truly sets her apart. She doesn't engage in drama, nor does she need to lean on cheap tactics to secure her place at the top, while Reese and Wilson are busy projecting their frustrations onto her.
The WNBA has had several white superstars before Caitlin: Breanna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird. But as great as they've been, they can't pass the ball like Caitlin can. They can't orchestrate and control control games like Caitlin Clark can.
Clark remains laser focused on elevating her skills, winning games, and inspiring a new generation of basketball fans. This stark contrast is exactly why Caitlin Clark has become a breath of fresh air in a league often weighed down by egos and entitlement.
Caitlin Clark is the biggest star in American sports. There's not one other American athlete that could do what Caitlin Clark has done for the WNBA or for any league.
I think she should be up for MVP.
In a world where some players are quick to claim oppression or invent grievances, Caitlin Clark stands as a symbol of authenticity and merit. She isn't asking for handouts or special treatment. She's proving every single day why she deserves the attention and accolades she receives.
Those women that are petty and jealous and have some animus towards Caitlin Clark, that's old school sport. We got a good guy and a bad guy. We got real competition.
Unlike Reese and Wilson, who feel threatened by her success, Clark welcomes the competition and is more than willing to prove herself on the court.
If you even talk about MVP, you have to be like, well, of course A'ja Wilson's running away with it. Like, you cannot even have any kind of constructive conversation around MVP unless you preface it by saying, well, I already know that A'ja Wilson won. Like, that's the standard. If you talk about this conversation, which I think is a little weird, I feel like we should be able to just talk about it.
It's no wonder that while Reese and Wilson grow increasingly unlikable, Caitlin Clark continues to shine as the true star of women's basketball.
The biggest reason that she's popular is it's the Steph Curry syndrome. She looks a lot like the girl who's out shooting hoops next door, and she plays like we are all capable of playing.
And there you have it. Caitlin Clark continues to rise above the noise, focusing on her game and winning the hearts of fans, while Angel Reese and A'ja Wilson remain caught up in drama and entitlement.
If you watch A'ja play, you can see how she dominates the game. Like, she's an incredible player. Is she a better player overall right now than Caitlin Clark and Nafisa Collier? Yes. Is she a more valuable player to her team than Caitlin Clark and Nafisa Collier? That is where I'm not sure.
As Clark's popularity soars, it's clear why she's becoming the face of women's basketball. Her hard work, humility, and pure skill have set her apart from the likes of Reese and Wilson, who seem more focused on tearing others down than lifting themselves up.
The WNBA has 18 games this season where they've had more than 1 million viewers average, and 16 of those 18 have featured Caitlin Clark. So you cannot deny the connectivity of Caitlin Clark playing basketball and people wanting to watch. If she's playing, they will come, they will watch the game.
You know what the average attendance is when Caitlin Clark plays home or the road? What? 15,300. Wow. Okay? 15,300. You know when's the last time I watched a WNBA game? Never.
The WNBA was nothing before Caitlin Clark.
In the end, the truth is simple. Greatness doesn't need to shout, it shows.
One more thing on Caitlin, which makes her super valuable, is she is leading the WNBA in points generated, which means points scored and or points assisted on. She is leading the league by a significant margin, and she is doing this as a rookie with a Fever team that is not comprised of a bunch of all-stars.
Caitlin Clark is proving that every single day, leaving behind the distractions and making her mark on the court. The future of the game is clear, and it belongs to players like Caitlin Clark.